we are together. I am Kevin Jacobs, and thank you for continuing to tune in, hopefully. And this, boy, there's been some interesting things go on this week. And I find myself drifting to the more scary and also insane stories. Um, I don't know what that says about me, but I think those are the ones that we should probably be most concerned with. Things that are horrifying generally, for everybody, and things that are just so weird it begs the question, what the fuck is wrong with us? So to start today, this is coming from Reuters. China's gene giant harvests data from millions of women. A prenatal test used worldwide sends gene data of pregnant women to the company that developed it with China's military. The U.S. sees a security risk. I don't know. What makes them think that? I mean, if nothing, the transparency that they have going on over there should be enough to tell us that this is probably fine. Chinese gene companies selling prenatal tests around the world developed them in collaboration with the country's military and is using them to collect genetic data from millions of women for sweeping research on the traits of populations, a Reuters review of scientific papers and company statements found. U.S. government advisors warned in March that a vast bank of genomic data that the company BGI Group is amassing and analyzing with artificial intelligence could give China a path to economic and military advantage. Man, I just wish I could go back to when Orwell was writing in 1984 and just shake him like a young boy on Christmas morning and just be like, dude, you'll never guess. The technology could propel China to dominate global pharmaceuticals. I'm gonna leave that one right there. And also potentially lead to genetically enhanced soldiers or engineered pathogens to target the U.S. population or food supply. I don't know if any of that sounds vaguely familiar. Reuters has found that BGI's prenatal test, one of them the most popular in the world, is a source of genetic data for the company, which has worked with the Chinese military to improve, quote, population quality. Oh boy, where have I heard this before? BGI says it stores and reanalyzes leftover blood samples and genetic data from the prenatal tests sold in at least 52 countries to detect abnormalities such as Down syndrome in the fetus. That doesn't sound good. I mean, that's a tough one, isn't it? Again, I'm going to leave that one right there. The tests were branded, and I shit you not, nifty, for, quote, non-invasive fetal trisomy. It also captures genetic information about the mother as well as personal details such as her country, height, and weight, but not her name, BGI computer code viewed by Reuters shows. So far, about 8 million women have taken these tests, and they have not said how many of them were outside of China. They say that it only stores location data on women in mainland China. And again, their word is not something I'm qualified to question. The tests are a private procedure for the women who take them, a component in their routine prenatal care, but the studies show that they yield increasingly potent information for research. One BGI study, for instance, used a military supercomputer to reanalyze nifty data and map the prevalence of viruses in Chinese women, look for indicators of mental illness in them, and single out Tibetan and Uyghur minorities to find links between their genes and their characteristics. These are the things that are always the plot line to a movie that ends with, Morgan Freeman making some kind of speech and, the world coming 5 seconds from total destruction. This is how they start most of the time. And it almost seems like we're hell-bent on having one of those, like every time that there's like the way, and I'm all for science, but it just feels like some of the things that I see now, like this, and whenever, there's news about that Large Hadron Collider, those dorks in Switzerland, I'm always just like, this is how it this is how it happens. That one of these times, a part of me thinks that those dudes in Switzerland are possibly, if all those guys on the History Channel or whatever were correct in talking about multiple realities or alternate realities other than this one. I think that maybe after having a pretty good run somewhere around 2016, maybe these dummies opened up some kind of, because they were attempting to study black holes there at the LHC, and it's my, I won't say theory because I don't want anybody to think that this is what I actually believe, but to put a nice little bow on how everything has gone straight into the insane asylum over the last 5 years. The only thing I was able to come up with was that those nerds in Switzerland were fucking around with black holes, and they somehow managed to flip us into one of those alternate realities, or they altered the course of where we were going to fork off somewhere in the space-time continuum. And after having a good run for a long time, we finally got the shitty end of the stick, and here we are. And now women who are getting these tests done are being entered into a database that Goebbels would have just been fucking beside himself to have. Ugh. DNA data collected from prenatal tests on women outside China has also been stored in Chinese government-funded gene data. Didn't they just say that's not what they were doing? Again, I'm not going to question their word here. It's, as far as I know, it's infallible. BGI, in which the Shenzhen city government and Beijing's largest state investment vehicle took stakes in 2014, runs that gene bank. So I'm sure everyone's intentions here are good. Reuters found no evidence BGI violated patient privacy agreements or regulations, which just goes to show you that nobody reads the fine print on any of that horse shit. We've all signed our souls in some degree to some company, and it's probably some company with an app on your phone. I mean, this is just next level. This is just next level kind of stuff here, and I feel like this has been going on for a few years now, and this article just came out. So this is probably way underway by now. And in the name of truth, I'm gonna assume that we might not have as good a grasp on it as we might think. Reuters is one of the last bastions of actual journalism, so I'm generally pretty on board with their reporting. But it's a crapshoot, isn't it? If we're dealing with any company that is working with the interests of the Chinese military in it, I'm gonna say that there might be a little bit of defense being run. That's it. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, this one, I didn't really see many people talking about this one, and once I saw it, I just became sort of obsessed with it because it's just such a dystopian. It's one of those things that you don't believe are real, and more often these days I have to double check whatever source it is that I am reading at any given time and confirm to myself that we are dealing in reality. Let's move on though, because this was something else that happened that at first, I'll admit, I was just kind of like, I am not, I was neither surprised nor educated on the matter. Obviously, it was a scary ordeal to hear about. You're like, Jesus, that's wild, but it didn't have the same implications that it did once a little bit more information started to come out. Haitian police, this is coming from CNN. I know, shut up. Haitian police arrest suspect accused of orchestrating president's assassination. Now, this is a wild story. So, Haitian authorities have this is actually wrapping up with their newest development. So to give a little background, the president of Haiti was murdered in his home, and his wife was also shot, and I believe members of his security detail were killed by like 20 dudes in full fucking tactical gear with fancy weapons, and they were wearing clothes with DEA insignia on them. claiming to be DEA, and they murdered this guy in his house, and then they got away, somehow. For the first time ever, whenever this kind of shit happens, and it seems like something this well orchestrated, these giant governments with lots of power and resources, it's like they always, you don't hear about this shit because it almost makes you think that they get away with it. But leave it to like just some cops in Haiti to be like, no, fuck you. We're gonna actually do our jobs, and we're going to. Which is why it's amazing to me that any of this is even coming out, because Haiti police are just like, no, we're going. Not only we're going to do our jobs and we're going to figure out what happened here, we're also going to tell you exactly what's going on with no real angle that I can detect anyway. It still leaves a lot of questions in the air, but the fact that there are questions being left in the air and that they are not being tied up for you with some sort of suggestion as to what it all means gives me hope that they're actually trying to get to the bottom of this. So this guy was, but from what I could find, the general consensus on this guy was, a lot of people weren't too happy with him. A lot of people, but also a lot of people who weren't happy with him are saying, this isn't what we wanted. Like, we're not satisfied with this outcome. We didn't want him in office maybe anymore, but we didn't want him fucking murdered in his home, which I think is a fair and reasonable stance. Haitian authorities have arrested a man that they say helped orchestrate the assassination of the president. So they're climbing the ladders here because they had about 20 guys in custody, I believe. 3 of them were killed during a shootout that sounds like it was out of an episode of 24. And I believe it was over like a dozen Colombian nationals, ex-military, and also 2 Haitian American citizens who had American citizenship. And as this was all coming out, it sounded like something from a movie. You're like, this international team from Colombia with 2 Americans going in the middle of the night with fake uniforms for a U.S. federal agency and just killing the president of a country in his home. That feels, again, like something you'd see in a movie, but again, the American aspect, the 2 Americans, immediately, if you have any knowledge of the way that our intelligence agencies play their game across the map, your first thought is, oh, that feels like CIA. And I don't know, because this newest update here where they're saying that Haitian authorities have arrested a man that they say helped orchestrate the assassination of President Jovenel Moise. That can't be how you say his name. The country's police chief announced on Sunday the president was killed Wednesday in his Port-au-Prince home in an attack that has shaken a country already rattled by rampant violence and political instability. Come on, you could have used any other word but rattled for the country that had one of the worst earthquakes on record. The arrested suspect, identified as 63-year-old Christian Emmanuel Sonnen, entered the country on a private jet in June, said Police Chief Leon Charles at a news... The guy's name's Leon Charles? That's... If I ever met somebody and they told me they were from Haiti, like actually from Haiti, and then they said their name was Leon Charles, I would say, get the fuck out of here. Police did not say what Sonnen would be charged with or what his motives may have been, that's the scariest part. They're not, maybe they do know and they're just not saying. The leaving out of the motives for sending a team of 20 fucking international assassins to kill a president in his home, motive's nice. Motive is nice. They don't know what the motives have been beyond saying he arrived with, quote, political intentions. Man, some just the lack of acknowledgement of some of the, God, I don't know, it's just such a funny thing to say, saying he arrived with political intentions. Yeah. I would suspect throwing a country into utter chaos with a coup that you didn't pull off. You did half of it. You got, you did the thing, but then you didn't do the other thing. Who's paying these guys? Would you bring the B squad to your political assassination? Jesus. Sonnen is alleged to have been in touch with a Florida-based Venezuelan security firm to recruit 26 Colombian mercenaries and 2 Haitian Americans. Their first assignment was to provide security for Sonnen, but this mission is alleged to have evolved over time. So at this point, I'm going to retract what I said several minutes ago about them at least being clear with the evidence. Unless this is truly that they don't know shit, unless they don't know shit, I'm going to retract that statement about them being transparent, because the language being used, at least in this updated article, feels a little bit more vague than some of the earlier reports that were coming out that seemed a little bit more concrete. They were just like, this is what's happening, this is what we have, this is what we know. And I'm not sure if maybe as it all unraveled. Now, again, if you hired 20-some mercenaries who were willing to kill this guy, they said that they looked highly trained, highly financed. Yeah, they got caught. They bungled that one. But maybe this is just my perception thanks to Hollywood, but you would think that the guys that you hire for this job, like, the last thing that you have to worry about is them fucking talking. I'm not saying that, they're going to have a glass capsule of cyanide, but just simply not saying anything. If they got a squeaky wheel in this crew, man, somebody is going to pay deeply for that one, I have to suspect. So it says that their mission, it began as to provide security for Sonnen, but this mission is alleged to have evolved over time, into an assassination plot. That is the understatement of ever. Alleged to have evolved over time. Police have previously said a group of at least 28 people are suspected in the killing. At least 20 of those suspects have been detained, including the 2 American nationals. 3 suspects have been killed, while a mass manhunt is underway for the 5 suspects still on the loose. Yeah, the good ones. Police said they received information on the operation from the detained Colombians. You would think that people coming from a country where the finishing move for people who squeal is named after you, with the Colombian necktie, you would think that they would not be the ones to be singing. That's just what I would assume. Those Americans, though, they might have been singing. After the assassination, Sonnen was the first person one of the alleged assassins called, said the police chief. Upon raiding his home, police said they found 20 boxes of 12 and 9mm caliber ammunition, rifle and pistol holders, 24 unused shooting targets, a cap labeled DEA, 2 vehicles, and 4 Dominican Republic license plates. This is wild. This is wild. And I'm now, while I'm in mid-thought here on all of this, I'm sort of reevaluating my entire stance on it. Like, this feels still like something real sinister was going on. And I don't know shit, but it's just, for such a big story, like, just the vagueness that they're using, you already feel like that the fix is in, and they now may be not necessarily walking back, but like I said, in the initial reporting of this, it was truly interesting to me, because they were just like, yo, this happened. It's this amount of people from these countries. We got them. We figured it out. And it seemed like they were taking a no bullshit sort of approach to this. And now, and maybe for good reason, they seem to be maybe being a little bit more close-lipped on it. But either way, this is a fucking crazy story, and I'm very interested to see where it goes. And after they do the cliche following of the money, here's one that just sort of really rings true to where some people are at in their own mental capacity. Whether it is their personal life or the world at large in its current form that is doing this to folks. But we're seeing a giant uptick in mental illness, specifically undiagnosed and untreated mental illness. And this was no more apparent than when a woman had to be duct taped to a plane seat after attempting to open the plane door during an apparent mental breakdown. This is coming from Complex Magazine. A woman on an American Airlines flight had an apparent mental breakdown, causing her to try to open the plane's door mid flight and attack flight attendants. Yahoo News reports that as a result, flight attendants had to duct tape the woman to her seat, and the whole incident captured on a since deleted TikTok video filmed by. I'm not even going to give this person. They have LOL in their handle, so I'm just not going to do it. The video allegedly shows the unknown woman in first class with tape on her mouth and body. I mean, if you're going to be duct taped on a plane, first class is the way to do it. In the flight that was traveling to Charlotte, North Carolina from Dallas Fort Worth, and she remained that way, I guess, until they land. There is a still photo. They said that the video had been deleted. There is a still photo of like this blurry, grainy photo of a concerned looking woman with duct tape on her mouth. It looks like it could be on the same roll of film as some of those Johnny Gotch photos. If you don't know what I'm talking about, good. It's a very ominous photo, but it's hard to have sympathy for this lady for too long when you realize that she was trying to jettison, 100 and some people out of a fucking airplane at 30,000 feet. But anybody, you're vulnerable when you're duct taped to a chair. Is what I'll say. The person narrating the TikTok said that the uproar began halfway into the flight when attendants were, quote, running up and down the aisles frantically, kind of like whispering to each other. She continued, "It was just kind of like chaos and no one knows what's going on." When the pilot finally acknowledged the incident over the intercom, he told passengers to remain in their seats due to, quote, a bad situation on the plane. The last words, unless you are about to dive into an ocean, the last thing a pilot should ever say into the intercom in a post 9/11 world is, "We have a bad situation on the plane." That is vague and horrifying. You have one psychopath, which, as far as psychopaths on planes go, this one's pretty low. No vests involved. Or box cutters, whatever. It's just some lady losing her shit. It could be worse, is what I'm saying. Jesus, if I was on that plane and the pilot was just like, "Folks, I'm going to have to ask you to remain in your seats, please. I'm going to have to ask you to remain in your seats, please. We've got a bad situation on the plane." In that moment, I will start attempting to contact loved ones, assuming that I am about to be a part of, a fatwa, or that I am about to be a statistic of, planes that just shit the bed mid-flight. Like, something bad is happening on a plane. I only have so many connotations for this situation. None of them are good. If somebody would have just been like, "Yeah, we got some broad wiling out. She was trying to open up the door, but we got it. We hit her with the metal ice container," whatever. That I would have just been like, "Oh, Jesus, this country is fucked," but not attempting to DM people that I love and care about and try to get out some sort of rational thought when I believe that my life is about to end. Holy fuck. I wonder if any of the people on this plane can, like, sue for mental damages, for being, thinking that you were going to die. I guess maybe if there was no turbulence on the plane, you weren't really panicking. But again, if you're being hijacked, that might not be happening. I'm just thinking about how I personally would react to hearing those words specifically from the pilot of an airplane mid-flight. And, no matter how I square it, it isn't going to be good. This woman TikToker finally learned what happened from a flight attendant who said the woman was experiencing a mental breakdown in which she, quote, had an outburst. Again, that's one way to put it. And tried to get off the aircraft. She was saying, "I need to get off this plane." She went up to the exits and started banging on the door saying, "You need to let me off this plane." Lady, we're in the fucking sky! Will you please sit down? Just sit down. You will still have all of these problems when we land. Let's not do this now. I mean, fucking Texas to North Carolina. How long can that take? Just save it. Just put a pin in it for a minute. Sit there. Shit, stew in it for the rest of the flight so that when we do land, whatever you do is that much more outrageous. Just not on the plane. Not on the plane. Some people, man, they just have no fucking consideration. We all got shit going on. You know, we all have shit going on. The last thing that I need is to be like, oh, here are all these problems. Now the only way I don't have to deal with any of them is because this fucking lady is going to open up a plane door at 30,000 feet. You know? You're putting everybody else through something. Yeah, what a selfish asshole. And I'm glad they fucking duct taped her to the seat. Oh, here's a fun story that I thought for sure happened in Pennsylvania, but it happened in California. Craigslist post put hit on peacock days before it turned up dead. Yep. The post's alleged author who asked for help, quote, eliminating this bird. I got a problem. He's this colorful asshole. I gotta get rid of this fucking bird, you know? Which had been a regular visitor in the neighborhood for several years. Now, strangely enough, I can sort of relate to this because when I was in my late teenage, early 20 years, you know, your early 20s, me and my friends would frequently drive out in the middle of nowhere to smoke weed like you do. And there was this one particular road out in the middle of nowhere where this family, I assume, or very likely one person living in this home, because they had a wild amount of cages in their backyard that was visible from the street, like, you know, of all kinds of animals, I'm assuming. And one of them was a peacock that we had only actually seen once, I think, but we knew it was there, and we knew it was there because every time we would drive by, I would roll my window down and I would go, Peacock! And this fucking bird would, like clockwork, respond to me every time. We would take new people there and be like, watch this shit. And it was a fun little party trick that you could play on your high friends. And then we had a giant flood. Maybe 2011, I think it was. And there was a lot of property out that way that got, you know, like just washed out, or water came ripping through at some point. And after that happened, the next time that we had been up that way, this poor guy was gone. We never heard from him again. But your legend will never die, Peacock. So this is from Vice, which I gotta say, 70% of the time the articles that Vice puts out, they look like they're coming from The Onion nowadays anyway. It seems like everyone in the Azalea Heights neighborhood of McKinleyville, California, had a different name for the peacock that visited their homes almost every day. One local family called him Peony. The residents of Azalea Estates mobile home community called him Mr. P. That's funny. And Melissa and Mike Glass, who gave the bird his own enclosure on their property, called him Azul. Quote, he literally showed up out of the blue one day, Melissa told the Los Angeles Times. He's just been part of our life ever since. I can relate to that, Melissa. I didn't ever feel that way until I had a peacock enter my life under insane circumstance. And then I truly felt bummed out when it ended. He was part of their lives because whatever he was called, he'll have to be referred to in the past tense. Come on, man. Just lighten up on the verbiage. Jeez. Last week, an elderly Azalea Estates resident found the peacock in her yard, dead from a gunshot wound to its brightly feathered chest. The bird's death clearly wasn't accidental. No shit, not unless another peacock grew a set of thumbs and carelessly handled a .22. I mean, who the fucker is writing this shit? Vice, get it together. You sowed your fucking oats being started by a guy who ended up being somehow loosely labeled into starting the Proud Boys. So you're overcorrecting by this is This isn't the time or the place. But it was also telegraphed by a threatening-sounding Craigslist ad from a local man who offered a financial payout to anyone who could help, quote, eliminate this bird. After the peacock's body was found, Kelsey Radant remembered seeing the upsetting Craigslist post several weeks earlier. She had sent screenshots of the ad to her dad, who frequently gave the bird a breakfast-time slice of sourdough bread. Sounds like this fucking bird was living it up in the suburbs. Sourdough bread? Come on. Quote, he feels really responsible, like he should have done more when we saw the ad, and called the sheriff then, she told the Lost Coast Outpost. It truly is the Lost Coast. We didn't think anybody would do it, but we were wrong. Jesus. These people, I just need you to recognize for a second the kind of people who make Craigslist ads for insane things and people who peruse Craigslist for insane things. Generally, they're not people who are just giving away sourdough bread to, feral birds of many colors wandering through their cul-de-sac, because that doesn't make any fucking sense. But here we are nonetheless, and these people are now feeling guilt over not doing more to prevent this bird's death. The now deleted Craigslist post is 100% clear in its intentions. Quote, the job is simple. Get rid of a wild peacock that is disrupting our lives. It read, according to Lost Coast Outpost. Locating the bird as easy as it roasts in the tree near my house every evening, about 8 to 8:30 p.m. Please contact me so we can form a strategy to eliminate this bird, and also to agree on how much you will be compensated. If somebody doesn't sell this screenplay, to some other jerk off in Hollywood right now, as if it's not some, like The Men Who Stare at Goats or something with John Malkovich in it, where it's just this could be made into a movie, and I am officially putting that out there into the world right now. So Netflix, don't fuck me like you're doing that poor skater girl or whatever. Look that up. That's an interesting story. There's a young lady out there who is claiming to be who the story is based off of for this new Netflix show or movie, or I don't really give a shit. I didn't look into it that much, but this is the most white trash shit that I have ever heard in my life, and I'm not even talking about the fact that they referred to a mobile park home. Take it out. It doesn't even have to. This could have happened. In a very rich neighborhood, and this would still be the most white trash result that could be ever imagined. I just want to, when the guy was writing this ad, was he laughing about it? Like, was it funny, or was he just like chain smoking in a dark room like, this fucking bird? I hope it was that, at least. The bird's dead either way, so I hope. So this is all coming back to the mental health thing. I feel like there's a link. The poster wrote that the peacock's call had been an unwanted alarm clock for several months, waking him up every morning at 5 or 5:30 a.m. and continues calling for about 3 hours. He said he'd tried earplugs and putting a pillow over his head, but nothing worked. And clearly there were zero other options other than killing the fucking thing. It feels like a movie, like some guy just with his, like, clutching his pillow, like, angrily, while this bird is just, like, yelling outside of his window, and he's just slowly losing his mind like fucking Michael Douglas and falling down, and it's just not anything real serious. It's just this bird that's a constant annoyance. Man, somebody needs to make this movie. Melissa and Mike Glass looked at screenshots of the ad after their beloved bird was killed. It wasn't their bird. Why are we giving ownership to these fucking assholes because they fed him some sourdough? Mike was given the grim task of removing its blood-soaked body from his neighbor's yard, and they noticed that whoever wrote the listing had included a Google Maps link at the bottom. They also realized that they knew exactly who lived in the house designated on the map because he'd previously asked him about ushering the peacock out of the neighborhood. So you know the guy. We know who the bird caper is. He'd also approached other people in the neighborhood, both in person and by email. I mean, it sounds like they're talking about a felon that they're searching for. Like they're looking for this guy who put a hit out on a bird. This is incredible. He'd also apparently approached other people in the neighborhood, both in person and by email, to ask them about relocating the bird to some other street or some other. Just get this fucking guy out of it. Just get him out of here. He told them that he was an animal lover. Vice discovered that he once signed an open letter to Ken Salazar, then Secretary of the Interior, advocating for increased environmental protections for polar bears, but his affinities might be limited to the kind of animals that live 2,300 miles away. So again, this man was clearly dealing with some things, or not dealing with some things. And listen, I don't want to ever tell anybody to not be impassioned about anything. And I think we should care about the polar bears. And I think that we should care about the ice caps and that sort of things. But I just need you to realize that the minute that you ever find yourself penning a letter or an email to some security of the who gives a shit regarding protections for a specific sect of bears. I'm not saying that everyone who would do this is mentally ill, but if there was a Venn diagram, that's all I'm saying. Jesus Christ. So they reached out to the guy to confirm that the peacock was indeed dead, and then he declined to answer any questions about the ad or about the bird. Quote, "If a crime has been committed, then I'm consulting an attorney. I believe that would be more prudent." This guy, God, I just want to meet this guy in a supervised environment. No one seems to have determined whether a crime was committed or not. The bird's dead. Somebody with a bullet hole in his chest. I mean, I don't know what the fucking rules are in California on shooting birds of paradise, but to say whether or not, yeah, I mean, I guess that is exactly that. Is it a crime? I mean, but you can't just go firing. If there was a fucking crow outside my house just annoying me when I was trying to sleep and I fired a gun at it, like me telling the cops when they inevitably show up, like, yeah, he was really a pain in my ass. They'd be like, okay, yeah, no, we understand that, but put your hands behind your back. Surprisingly, they did not receive any response from this, the Craigslist bird killer, CBK, as I've just named him. Vice also reached out to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife about the situation, but as of this writing, we have not received a response. Yeah, no one gives a shit there. They're not going to deal with this. Spokesperson for the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office confirmed to Vice that the agency is investigating the incident. Quote, "A potential suspect has been identified by deputies and a search warrant was served at a residence on Hewitt Road in relation to the investigation." So your money, California, your tax dollars are being spent, have no fear, trying to solve the murder for hire of a peacock. And that's what I'm just here to tell you about this. That's it. No arrests have been made at the time. The crimes currently being investigated are animal cruelty and conspiracy to commit a crime. I mean, make up your mind. Yeah, I mean, if you already know what crimes you're going to charge them with, it's kind of hard to say that you don't know if there was a crime committed. But, alas, rest in peace, peacock. Both peacocks, my peacock, this peacock. I hope you're being very flamboyant in peacock heaven. Mike and Melissa Glass have considered the possibility of filing a civil lawsuit. Holy shit! While other neighbors are concerned what the man might do if, say, someone's barking dog wakes this guy up next time. Now that's a real concern. You hear about these people. Specifically, one that comes to mind is the Cedric Bixler Zavala from At the Drive-In and the Mars Volta fame, and his wife have been going through this insane saga with Scientologists because she was a former member of the church. She was allegedly raped by Danny Masterson. Um, you know, and this has been an ongoing thing. She's not the only one accusing him of some horrific shit. You may know him as Hyde from that 70s show. But they were saying, once because he's a giant Scientologist, so once this was all brought to light and they were being very public and confrontational, as you should be, for people who are protecting rapists and God knows who. And they said that they've had, at least, I believe, I'm going to say at least one dog die from poisoning because these fucking weirdos would be just like tossing treats with some kind, with rat poison in it into their yard while they're talking, like crazy shit. So that would be a real concern to me here for the guy who is putting out hits on Craigslist for, a peacock. I would say he's probably not an ideal neighbor. I'm going to say that he's probably got some other quirks that other people are worried about. I'm going to say this isn't the first time that he has appeared to be a maniac either. I'm going to say this is probably a pattern of behavior. So yeah, instead of wasting all these resources on trying to investigate who put a hit out on this bird, I would just maybe get this guy some therapy. I don't know. If anybody files a civil lawsuit claiming any sort of damage from having their non-existent pet peacock murdered, go fuck yourself. That's really about that. So this is like an episode to sort of make up for the shorter episode I put out this week as the regular episode. I was very tired and sweating profusely because I got to shut the air conditioner off to do this because the microphone picks up absolutely everything and I'm too stupid to figure out how to be able to do both things. So I just shut it off. And I start yelling. And I appreciate you tuning in for that. So this is coming out on Sunday. We'll have a normal regular episode come out this Wednesday. And thank you for being here. And for the love of God, just hang in there. And if you find yourself on a flight having a breakdown, just wait till it lands. Just wait until it lands. The end result is the same as getting duct taped to a chair. You got to wait until it lands. It's just now you're not fucking dealing with security and police afterwards. You're not or Homeland Security. So just remember, keep your hands out the door. Just hang in there. We will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.